Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Red Carpet Show here prior to Hebsy on Sports 241. It's Friday. It's the 16th of July. No, yep, it's the 16th of July. Just checking here. And today is the first day of stage 13 of Ontario's back to normal post kind of COVID thingamabob, I think. So today, as of today, you're allowed to do stuff that you haven't been able to do in a year and a half. But in the last 18 months or so, you've been able to listen to this show either live every Friday or the podcast later on or at your leisure. Back in the day, you couldn't do that. You would have to get up at 9:20 in the morning Eastern time and watch the show live or listen to the show live if it was radio or if it was television. It's amazing how we've advanced, isn't it?
Honestly, think about like going back even 20 years. If you could imagine that you could have a live show and you could have all these subscribers who have it pushed to their like smartphones. It's really amazing. You don't need Rogers, Bell, CBC. Like you don't need Chorus. You don't need these big fat cats. You can do it yourself.
We don't need them. And it's true. The programming that's being produced independently is so much better than I think anyone expected. You know, you've got professionals, you've got people that worked in the television or radio business or traditional media that have got great chops. And you've got others that never worked in radio or television or traditional media that also have great chops, like Mike, that knows not just the technical aspects, but as a viewer, as a listener, as someone who is engaged for many years and perhaps wanted to be in the media. Am I right, Mike? Wanted to have their own show.
Oh, yeah, sure. You think about it. Yeah. But you realize you don't sound like Hebsy. So how could you have your own show? You got to have those pipes.
No, that's got nothing to do with it.
Not anymore.
If
but
that was the case, Chris Cuthbert,
oh, that's true.
Chris Cuthbert would have never entered broadcasting.
But no, because Foster Hewitt sounded like that. Like Foster had that.
Foster Hewitt, but back in those days, there was no such thing as a broadcaster.
Right. That's right.
It's not like Foster Hewitt and 7 other guys were applying for the job as the Leafs play-by-play guy.
True that.
You have any experience? No.
Hey, I don't mean to interrupt you here, but if you don't remember to retweet the tweet I just sent at you, we're going to regret it. We're going to regret it.
Why isn't it on? Oh, there it is. Got it. Okay, engage. I'm going to engage. We are live. This is very exciting.
Woo! See, watch
it's the Red Carpet Show.
Cake get baked here. It's good stuff here. All right. Just checking in here.
We are live and interactive. That's what I'm putting on the tweet.
Hawksley Workman was our special guest last night for.
I like him.
Yeah, he's got I like the way he thinks and communicates. He should have his own national show. He's good.
Well, why doesn't he? Have you discussed it with him? Having a podcast?
Yeah, we did discuss it. I think he's a little worried he'll get canceled because he talks from the heart, and he's worried about like what he might say with a live mic in front of him. I think.
But canceled by who?
I don't know. Whoever does
Mike, if he's got a podcast, who's going to cancel him?
I know.
Did you explain that to him?
I'm sure he's noodling it all. He's living in Peterborough now.
Right. By the way, I don't know if Peterborough got hit hard, but boy, in Barrie yesterday, a tornado touchdown, and a lot of friends of mine, a lot of people that I know, not just in the GTA, but around Ontario, were, in fear for a while that this thing was going to come through. I mean, the rain alone was torrential and winds were damaging, but man, when you get that kind of weather and you get a call like, in 2 minutes, this thing's going to hit your area, so get to the basement. That's how fast it happened. And even with the, the technology we have, even then, people could not be warned in time. Unless you were on your Twitter or unless you were around some kind of media, you didn't know that this storm was heading your way, and in 45 seconds you were going to get hammered. Yeah, pretty wild stuff.
Hopefully no one got hurt, but I saw a lot of house damage and all that. Right. Okay, 9:14. We're good to go. I was going to say, I was caught. Like I was recording in the backyard. I'm in South Toronto, so we didn't get a tornado, but it just started coming down during what was it? Drowning pools, bodies, and then all of a sudden it just came down. It was like we thought. Anyway, we ran for cover. It was quite exciting.
Well, I've taken a couple of great bike rides the last 2 days. And yesterday, I could feel it coming. And I said, I got to get home. I do not want to get trapped outside with my bike. And I'm thinking, because of the previous rainstorm, if I'm out and this happens, my ride home is going to be through, 3 feet of water. There's standing water everywhere. So I got home in time for that. But anyway, hopefully everybody's okay. And if you were in the area where there was damage, hopefully it didn't affect you. Today, we would like to hear from you. There are so many different topics to discuss. I'm not sure I got all of them. I'm not sure I know everything that you want to talk about. So feel free to chime in, get in the dialogue box there. Let Mike and me know what's on your mind, what you'd like to hear discussed. If we've already got it on the menu, then cool, you'll hear it. If not, let us know. It's kind of like a sports talk show, except we can't hear your voice on the other end, but we can try. We can see your writing, and Mike can probably do a pretty good impersonation of your voice asking the question or making the comment. Am I right?
I'll do my best. Absolutely. Here, I just loaded up to see the comments, and I see. I just popped in now. I can see already. Gordon Enright, I. Sinclair Russell, Daniel Finkler, Steve Green, beautiful. Brian Gerstein, Moose Grumpy, Paul Hockyard. Like, these are people just waiting for you to start.
Yeah. By the way, I've got a special Steve Simmons segment because my mom found some articles that she had clipped out, over my career, and right. One which I do not remember at all, where Steve Simmons is absolutely kicking the shit out of me and Taddy. How bad our show was, how horrible it is, how unwatchable it was. And obviously I read the article when it first came out, but I probably dismissed it because who the heck was Steve Simmons in 1987? And in a lot of ways, it's flattering when you hear somebody trying to cut you down. It's sort of flattering because it means that they paid enough attention to you that they could sit down and write something. I mean, if they ignored you completely, that would be a shot.
Right.
Like, how come Steve Simmons isn't writing about Sportsline? But the fact that he wrote something and not favorable at all, and you look back at it after all these years, you go, what an asshole. Because the things he said about, people like Ann Romer in this article and just television sportscasting in general. I mean, he cuts up Christine Bentley and Ken Shaw of CFTO. Oh, it's quite something. So reading it 30 odd years later, when your mom goes, hey, by the way, did you know that Steve Simmons was talking shit about you back then? Because, when you're doing well on a show, you don't pay too much attention to a bit of criticism, but from some hack that you've never heard of before.
Right.
Some new guy at the Toronto Sun is trying to earn his points. Now you look back 35 years later and you go, same guy. Same guy. Phil Kessel was not around 35 years ago, but Hebsy and Taddy were. So boom. Anyway, I'm going to read some of that because it's good. It's sort of, what's the word? Cathartic? Or no,
cathartic.
Is it cathartic?
Or you get some kind of like
satisfaction.
Yeah, it's healing.
It's something off your
somehow
chest.
It's somehow healing to you. Yeah.
Good. You'll heal with me. We'll get into that as well. Should we start the show? Is it time?
Yeah, let's do it, brother.
Is it 9:20?
It's damn close enough. You snooze, you lose here on Hebsy.
Okay. What if people are tuning in right at 9:20?
Well, they should know by now. We're
at Global,
unpredictable.
When I worked there, they ensured that right at the top of the hour, at the very top of the hour, the program would start. They had it set up so that the first minute or 2 minutes or the tease was right at the top of the hour because they knew that at the top of the hour, CFTO or CBC or City were still running some other programming. Maybe they were running animation for their news or there was a promo. And Global ensured that they're programming right. So if you were dial flipping, which was probably even more popular back in those days.
Oh, because there were fewer channels.
But also you could do it quickly.
Yeah, right.
Button, right?
Sure.
Or there was another one, Mike, on some of them where you would just click the button and it would give you 3 seconds of each channel.
Oh, I remember that.
Time.
Yes.
Remember?
Right.
So 3 seconds and then no good. And then, the scan button on radio, same thing.
Yeah.
You had 3 seconds to decide if that's what you wanted to listen to or watch, or let's see what's on the next one. So Global made sure that it was top of the hour and you clicked on Global, you were getting the actual program, not a promo. So that's what we're going to do here. Is it 9:20?
It is 9:20. 9:21. We're late. Oh my God. Are you ready? Here. I'm recording in 5, 4, 3,
The following podcast is brought to you by Crosswinds Golf and Country Club in Burlington. Would you enjoy breathtaking views of Rattlesnake Point and Mount Nemo while waiting to hit your next shot? Of course you would. And that's why Crosswinds is the place for you. Gorgeous $1 million views. And the conditions at Crosswinds always pristine, which is rare for a public course. And the people there, friendly and knowledgeable, which is rare for a public course. No, I'm kidding. They want to make your experience an enjoyable one at Crosswinds. And attention to detail is one of Crosswinds' strongest points. Every little thing, like the flowers that are growing in the flower box as you go across the bridge on the 10th fairway, in perfect condition. They're not wilting flowers. That's attention to detail. They're watered. They look beautiful. They smell great. Look, I've played a lot of public golf in my day, and nothing compares to Crosswinds. We were out there the other day, and it was a wonderful experience. Going to play there again on Sunday, and I can hardly wait. Go to crosswindsgolf.com, book your tee time online, see what else they have to offer too, like great banquet facilities for your next big event. Maybe somebody's getting married. That would be a great place to hold the wedding. Make sure you tell them Hebsy sent you. crosswindsgolf.com. Now, Mike, let's start the podcast. Live from Toronto, it's Hebsy on Sports, episode number 241. Hi there, everybody. Mark Hebsher here in the Little Italy studios, and I'm joined as always by Toronto Mike, who's running things from the mothership in New Toronto. And I guarantee you, New Toronto was a lot quieter than Little Italy was a few days ago when Euro 2020 concluded. It was loud here. Today on the show, Major League Baseball really blew its chance to keep the momentum going after the All-Star game by having just one game scheduled last night, Mike. One. And guess what happened? It was canceled due to COVID.
Oh.
What the heck's all that about? You want to have these guys coming across the border into Canada? Really? Just so you can see some Blue Jay games at home? No, thank you. Blue Jays, by the way, back in action tonight. They're at home, which is Buffalo. No, it's Trenton. No, it's Buffalo. At home against the Texas Rangers, a team that's going nowhere. And it begs the question, are the Jays going anywhere? Let's see if they can improve on their mediocre record. And let's see if $150 million man George Springer can get above the Mendoza line before we start talking about him being a leadoff hitter. By the way, should players who are voted into the All-Star game by the fans, should they be obligated to show up? I mean, millions of people voted for you, and you took a pass because you wanted to be with your family, which is nice for the family. But you got the whole offseason to do that. You signed up to be a major league player. You're voted in. You should be honored. You should want to meet each one of these people individually and thank them for their support. How else do you think how do you grow the game if the big stars are taking a pass? What if Vladdy Jr. decided not to attend? I want to be with my family. Look, if he's got an injury, I get it. But can you imagine people going, man, I went to the game. I wanted to see Vladdy Jr. Not there. Wanted to see Jacob deGrom. Not there. So the big stars should have to go. Also, the Olympics are coming, but CBC will not have many boots on the ground in Tokyo. In fact, most of them are going to be in the Toronto studios. Very few on site, which is becoming a common theme in broadcasting these days, isn't it? Why should we send broadcasters to the venue? They can do it from home. Watch it off a monitor. What do we need Blue Jay broadcasters in Buffalo for? Who cares if Buck Martinez lives 20 minutes from the Trop? We're not going to send him there to do the game. Let him stay at home. It's bullshit. I hate it. Okay? And you probably won't notice a difference because you got some really great professionals working at the CBC. And they can pull it off. They can make it seem like Dan Schulman is sitting in the Tokyo Arena calling men's basketball. But it's not. He'll be sitting at his home in Thornhill. You won't know the difference because he's good and because the technology is there. So it's going to be a wacko Olympics. We're going to talk about that. The latest on Zach Hyman, future Edmonton Oiler. I don't know. Detroit Red Wing, Los Angeles King. Pick a team. But he's not going to be a Maple Leaf. They screwed themselves on this. They're going to lose a key player. Now they got to get something for him, right? Go ahead. Trade his rights. We need something for this guy because he's not going to be a Leaf. He's going to end up killing us. Make sure he doesn't go in the division. Please. Not to Boston, not to Tampa, not to Montreal, not to Buffalo. That's all we need is this guy. Talk about the British Open, which is going on as we speak. Lots of Canadian content atop the leaderboard. Talk about the NBA Finals and much more. But first, let's say hi to Toronto Mike, who appears freshly groomed. Above the waist for sure. Below the waist, Mike?
Absolutely. You know that. My balls are grateful. Every morning they thank me. But this is the Lawnmower 4.0. That's what I use. And it's also, if you're in rough shape, like there's a power outage due to some storm, you can also use it as a flashlight.
I'm sure that's a great selling point. I'm sure the folks at Manscaped are going, thank God he mentioned that there's a light.
There's a light.
You can see where you're going.
A powerful light.
You can see where you're shaving. You can see where you're grooming, below the waist, south of the border.
And you can use it in the rain because it's water resistant, right? You can use it in the shower. You can use it in the rain. It's quite a handy thing. Bring it camping with you.
There you go. So that's the Lawnmower 4.0, one of the many, many outstanding products offered by the folks at Manscaped. And your balls will thank you. And also, if you got issues with your nose or your ear or hair in unwanted places or wanted places, you just want to be well-groomed, check them out, manscaped.com. And don't forget, if you use the promo code Hebsy, Hebsy, you will get 20% off and free shipping.
Absolutely. So you do that. Use the promo code Hebsy. Let the great Mark Hebsher here wet his whistle. This program's live every Friday. People seem to dig it, and we're happy to do it. So this is how you can kind of help us out, help Hebsy out. So do that. By the way, Hebsy, your intro was so long, I ran out of Los Lobos. Like, that almost never happens.
Do you want me to get you more?
Do they have any more?
Wait a second.
For us?
Do you leave the music in the background? BG, as we like to say.
See, you just revealed yourself. I bet you only watch on YouTube, and I bet you don't actually listen to your own podcast. Am I right?
I don't.
Yeah. So you can hear it in the podcast. Yeah.
But here's why, Mike. It would be like you conducting an interview with Hawksley Workman, and then going and listening to it to yourself after. Like, you've already done it. Why would you want to repeat? Like, it was a Groundhog Day.
No joke. I wanted to hear the part of the program when we got caught in the rain last night, so I actually went back and listened to like 15 minutes.
Different.
Oh yeah, that's different, I guess. But I hear you. I hear you.
You were panicking. You weren't thinking, wait a minute, I'm live here now. I have to be careful.
I want to hear how it sounded, how dramatic it sounded when we got soaked. It was honestly compelling stuff because the music, you got to listen to this. It sounds like we're in a typhoon, and it's quite wild.
Okay. There you go. It's good promo there. All right. So yeah, manscaped.com. Hebsy is the promo code for 20% off and free shipping. Your balls will thank you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, Mike.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball has already confirmed that the 7-inning game and that ghost runner on second base and extra innings will be a thing of the past starting next year. And they're also talking about banning the shift, which I think's a little ridiculous. Now, this all comes on the heels of the All-Star game in Denver that featured our Vladdy Guerrero Jr. as the MVP. But there was little else to cheer about. I mean, imagine fans that weren't from Toronto. What kind of a game? I mean, Vladdy's cute, and he hit a big home run, and he's engaging as all hell, and he's wonderful. But the
big home run.
Yeah, but the All-Star game, but it's just the All-Star game, right? Years from now, no one's going to go, Vladdy Guerrero, boy, those All-Star games. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame. No. Just a little small slice. But anyway, MLB had just one game scheduled last night. So I've been saying for years, if you're going to program any kind of sports, make sure that event takes place during baseball's All-Star break. There's a couple of days in there that are wide open for your sports, for the WNBA All-Star game, which preceded the Game 4 of the NBA Finals. Stuff like that. I said for years the Canadian Football League should have scheduled at least 2 games during the baseball All-Star break every year, even though it was going to be on a Wednesday or a Thursday.
Right.
Schedule those games because you don't have to worry about baseball. Well, last night, Major League Baseball decides, let's just have one game. Let's let everybody have the day off until Friday. Everybody, except for the Yankees and the Red Sox. That's the only game scheduled. Big rivalry between the Yanks and Red Sox. Well, guess what? The game was postponed due to COVID. Due to COVID. Yankees general manager Brian Cashman told reporters yesterday that the Yankees have 3 positive cases and 3 that are pending. The positives include reliever Jonathan Loaizaga, who was placed on the COVID-19 list before the All-Star break, as well as fellow pitchers Nestor Cortez Jr. and Wandy Peralta, each placed on the COVID-19 list ahead of yesterday's game. Cashman told reporters all 3 were vaccinated. The 3 pending cases involve Aaron Judge, Kyle Higashioka, and Gio Urshela. Now, ESPN's Marley Rivera reports Red Sox player Rafael Devers was asked not to conduct interviews because one of the Yankees who tested positive was at the All-Star game. That was Aaron Judge. So all 5 Red Sox All-Stars who came in contact with Aaron Judge, that's Devers, Matt Barnes, Xander Bogaerts, Nathan Eovaldi, and JD Martinez, were told to take social distancing precautions. Mike, this is pretty serious stuff. A couple of things here. One, we're not out of the woods yet, obviously. Even though Ontario is opening up stage 3 today, let's go there. Everyone's going, come on with this stupid government. Let's go. Let's let them come. Not so fast. Vaccinated or unvaccinated? Do you want all these people coming across the border, spending 3 days here, hoping they stay somewhat isolated, but you know that they're not going to? How do you monitor that? How do you contact trace that? Do you need to have that so that you can go down to Skydome and watch them live? Can you not wait till next year at this point until you get the all clear signal? I mean, you're at the All-Star game with these great players. Are you asking these guys, hey, did you do a COVID test today before we all now get together maskless and hug each other and talk to each other at close quarters and do all that stuff? Obviously not. So the talk that the Blue Jays might be back, maybe not in late July, but maybe in mid to late August. You got people clamoring for live baseball. I don't know how comfortable I'm going to be, Mike, in amongst big crowds, like the crowds they're going to have at the TFC game. I'm just not ready to take that step just yet. And the other thing is, do I want these people crossing the border? No. Some of them have been, many of them have been vaccinated, but a lot of them have not. And I'm sorry. I know that if I'm already fully vaccinated, I can't catch it from somebody. I get it. The chances are minuscule. You're much better off if you've been vaccinated than if you're not, blah, blah, blah. Not willing to take that risk. Sorry.
Okay,
and here's another thing.
Go ahead.
If you really want to grow the game of baseball, you have to ensure that the players who were voted in by the fans must attend the game. Unless the player is legitimately injured, attendance at the All-Star game should be mandatory. I had mentioned guys like DeGrom and Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa taking a pass on the game. No more. No excuses. You get voted in. You should be proud to attend the game. I consider it a snub if I voted for somebody and they decided they just didn't want to go. I didn't think that way about a week ago, but the more I heard about it and the more I was hoping to see certain players. And then I see other guys who are kind of like, oh, by the way, would you like to be an all-star? Because so-and-so can't make it. And I looked at some of the names and go, I'm not sure this guy deserves to be an all-star. It was sort of like last man standing. Well, he can't make it. He doesn't want to come. He dropped out last second. Can you make it? The guy's like, oh, yeah, I got my glove, got my uniform. I'll be there in an hour. Shouldn't be that way. Should be by invitation, voted in by the fans. The pride of being voted in and wanting to show those fans that you're worthy of that, of their vote, I think carries a lot of weight. So I would, and by the way, those uniforms, those All-Star game uniforms, now I'm thinking, geez, no wonder. I wonder if DeGrom said, wait a second, that's the uniform I'm going to be wearing? Nah, take a pass. That's why they took a pass. Had nothing to do with family. They went, ugh, I'll never wear those uniforms, ever. It's like Carol Vadney wearing those white skates for the California Golden Seals. Ugh.
Wow. So much to unpack here. Hold on. Let me just touch on a few things. Firstly, I don't understand why there is all-star uniforms. Like, what the best part was?
It shouldn't be.
Never. And we talked about this last week, but that was like one of the cool parts of the All-Star game, Major League Baseball All-Star game, is that you got to see Vladdy wearing his Blue Jay uniform. Like, I thought that was freaking cool. And that's the only sport you can probably do that in. So why would you not do that? That's dumb. Okay, so I hate
next year, I guarantee you they go back to
they better.
They've got to.
I'm going to shake my fist at them.
Because it looks like slow pitch, like a mixed slow pitch beer league.
And in fact, pajamas.
Yeah, the slow pitch uniforms of the teams that I see are much nicer than that.
Agreed. So that was horrible. Now, in terms of this, like, I know TFC's got a couple of matches coming up at BMO or whatever. They're only allowing fully vaccinated people into the country. I'm actually okay with this.
How do you prove that you're fully vaccinated?
There's got to be some. I mean, that's the border's job, is to be sold on the documentation being legit or whatever. But obviously, but in theory, allowing fully vaccinated people in, I'm fine with, like, personally. But I'm also, throughout this pandemic, I've also been very comfortable doing anything outdoors. And the fact that these, big bunch of people come into BMO Field outdoors, I don't believe, and I don't want to get into this whole thing, but I don't believe there's been any spread of significance ever in the history of this thing in the world outdoors.
No, nothing can be really traced from outdoors. I agree.
So I feel very safe outdoors.
I'd like to, me personally, I'd like to be more cautious. I got time. If I'm on my last legs and that's it, I'm going to die soon and I might never see another baseball game. I might think differently.
Right.
But at this point, I can afford to be patient. I've been patient. I can afford to be a little bit more patient.
Even if they don't allow people in who are, the anti-vaxxers who have said no to the vaccination, even if those people are not allowed to cross the border, you're still uncomfortable with all this.
No. I would be comfortable if everyone was fully vaccinated. I'd be okay with that.
Okay. Because that's what's happening in MLS, right?
They can't.
That's MLS,
in
right?
essence, that's what's being told. That's what Major League Soccer has done with TFC.
Right.
That's what the Blue Jays have to do. They have to ensure, or the government actually says, here's the deal.
Right.
You can't come into the country unless you're fully vaccinated.
Right. Now, I would be,
and it's the obligation of the individual to prove that they're fully vaccinated. It's not the obligation of the government or the border crossing guards to go, okay.
And my last point on this, just a reminder to everybody that, these vaccinations were all taken. You've got double vaxxed. I got double vaxxed. Everyone eligible in my household has done it. The whole point of this is not necessarily you'll never get COVID again. That's a very nice, bonus side effect that maybe it'll be difficult to get COVID, which is wonderful. But the whole point of this is that should you get COVID-19, it's the same as it's a mild symptoms. You don't need to be hospitalized. You sort of go and stay in bed for a couple of days and run this thing out. That's the whole idea.
You've got some other medical issues.
Sure, of course. There's always exceptions and immunocompromised people and stuff. But it's one of those things you start to learn to live with it. But you kind of rest assured, I won't die from this. I won't be in the hospital. I'll be able to, So hopefully you don't get it. But if you get it, mild symptoms. That's the goal here.
Right. Definitely. Again, I may change my mind at this particular point. I'm not in a huge hurry. I see that there's been outbreaks in some major U.S. cities. There's, it's just not safe enough yet for me. Although I have to admit that I have begun to shake hands again with people.
Fully vaccinated people?
Sometimes it's a fist bump, and then really, what's the difference between a fist bump and a handshake? How much more is there?
Right.
And at the Olympic Games, they've banned, there's no hugging, no fist bumping, no high-fiving, no handshaking, and the athletes will not have an official put the medal around their neck. They will grab their own medal off of a tray. There's going to be a tray sitting there.
Right.
The person that delivered the tray with the medal on it will have had gloves on, fully sanitized. Leave the tray there so that the athlete picks up their medal and puts it around their own neck.
Right.
All right.
Whatever it takes. Hey, can I call
and don't even get me started into some of the venues at the Tokyo Olympics, which apparently are so bad.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Where the marathon swimming takes place, for example, triathlon and such like that.
Huh.
That's not in a pool, That's in Tokyo Bay.
And it's dirty? What's going on there?
Dirty, smells like a toilet.
Uh-oh.
But this is something that marathon swimmers and triathletes have to go through. It's not like there's a body of water over there. Did you want to have it tested for pH and E. coli or just go? So I think if you asked any triathlete or marathon swimmer, they've swum in maybe some, I don't know, funky bodies of water before. Let's put it that way.
For sure.
We'll get to that later.
Hey, can I call out one of your fans? Is that okay? Because there's a comment on your YouTube page.
Of course. Can you call out?
Well, because
anything you want on the show.
I know you love your fan base, but okay. So this gentleman's name is Dave Duncan, and he has asked us to please stick to sports. And I'm going to let you handle this. Go ahead. That's Dave Duncan on your YouTube.
Go fuck off, okay?
So we don't need listeners like that, right? We don't need listeners like that.
That's like saying stay in your lane.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know anything but sports. I have no idea about anything. I don't live a life. Right? I don't have a cat that used to be mine that now belongs to my neighbors who are now trying to retrain him as an indoor cat when he just wants to be outside. I know you don't want to hear about stuff like that, but I do have a life outside.
And Gene Velitis wants to hear more about Otis, I'm sure. So
yeah, okay. So here's the Otis story: is that he's, these friends of mine, my neighbors actually, Ben and Ashley, have taken Otis in. But Otis still wants to be an outdoor cat. And so when I saw Ben the other day, he was telling me that they had taken him to the vet, although that he had to be sedated. He did not want to go to the vet, right? And that they want to retrain him, which you can do to cats. Cats are very adaptable. You can retrain a cat, but it's going to be difficult to train a cat. Now, I got some bad information on Otis, originally from the owner, who told me that it was a feral cat and was an outdoor cat. But I was told, or Ben was told by the vet who brought Otis over from Tehran, that Otis was actually staying in a cat hotel and was told by they told the next owner, do not let this cat outside. And she did. And he reverted back to his old ways. But this cat was supposed to be an indoor cat. He was originally a feral cat and then a cat hotel. So I hear this story and I'm going, wow. So you're going to have him as an indoor cat. So I actually saw Otis last night.
Wow.
We played trivia on Thursday nights, a Zoom call. And so Ben, said, hey, here's Otis. Here he is right here. Showed him to the camera and all that.
Amazing.
And said he does not like staying inside. He's meow. He does not like it. And they're trying to, they put him on a leash outside. So he's on a leash out in the backyard, but he can't go anywhere. And they take him for walks on the leash too, which I used to as well. He loves it on the leash.
Amazing. It's like a cat dog. Nicely done. Nicely done.
But they're trying to retrain him to be an indoor cat. So cute. So that's the Otis story.
Okay, so that we're dedicating that story to Dave Duncan. So shout out to Dave. Go ahead.
That's right. Oh, by the way, Otis is a very athletic cat, Dave. Okay? And could probably play sports. Chases golf balls very well, but
and Dave, you don't want to get fucking vaccinated, will you? Grow a pair and do what's right. Okay.
Robbie Ray gets the start for the Blue Jays tonight. They're back in action against the Texas Rangers. And it's time to start a winning streak because the Jays don't want to let things get out of hand. They're 45-42. They're tied with the Yankees, the COVID-ridden Yankees, for third place in the East. But they're 4.5 games out of a wild card spot. So let's get to it. Giddy up. And one thing they need more than anything else, George Springer, to show us that he's worth $150 million. In 20 games this year, George Springer is hitting a robust 194. So I don't want to fucking hear about George Springer being the leadoff man for this team. That's going to make the difference. If we put George Springer as the leadoff man, and the hell with Marcus Semien, the all-star. What are you, nuts? He's hitting 194. He's got to earn the spot. So far, he's hitting more like a guy who should be batting ninth in the order, not first. Let's get him above the Mendoza line before we start talking about our leadoff hitter, George Springer, okay? Enough's enough already with this guy. And now that we're well into the summer, it's time to put pressure on the Blue Jays to do something about their radio broadcast, Mike. Tim Perkis, a regular listener to this show, says he cannot listen to Pat Tabler on the radio anymore. Now, I don't blame Tabby. I blame the team. I blame Rogers for being incredibly cheap and tone deaf. To alienate any of your fans is dangerous, but to snub those loyal supporters by putting a cheap simulcast on the air that doesn't serve the radio listeners at all is disrespectful. And while I'm at it, how is it that Buck Martinez lives like 25 minutes from Tampa, but he's doing the games from his living room instead of the Trop? And how is it that there is nobody in Buffalo, nobody, to give us an inside perspective of the game that we're all watching? It's fucking embarrassing. And the Blue Jays and Rogers should be fucking ashamed of themselves. All right? What a Bush League operation. Imagine somebody from another town going, hey, I'm listening to the Blue Jay game. I have no idea what's going on. Sitting by the lake, sitting in the boat, listening, have no idea.
They don't care,
what the count is.
They don't care. They don't care about radio listeners. They do not care about radio listeners.
Absolutely awful. My mother found speaking of Blue Jay fans, one of the biggest since day one. My mother found a whole bunch of newspaper and magazine articles about me that she had collected. And one of them really jolted me. Let me get this here.
Okay. Exciting.
First of all, I'm going to hold this up to the camera. This is Steve Simmons' article from July of 1987. I had posted this a while back on social media just to give people an idea. There's pictures of Dave Duvall, Christine Bentley, and Ken Shaw and Lance Brown, right. Me and Jim Taddy, Dick Beddoes, Bruce Dobig, and Jim McKenney.
Wow.
And it's called Sports Goes Down the Tube. And it's Steve Simmons.
Right.
And so I'm sure I read the article when it came out, but it didn't give a fuck because Sportsline was #1 and we're making tons of money for Global, hundreds of thousands of viewers. But this was a big article in the Saturday Sun,
right,
by Simmons, who had just joined the Sun, I think.
Yeah,
and
from
basically
Calgary.
He trashes me and Jim Taddy and Sportsline and a bunch of other people and all the broadcasters out there. And when you look back, you go, but this was a writer who was jealous, wished he could be on the air. Instead, he's an ink-stained wretch. That's the way you look at it at the time.
Right.
And even though Sportsline was the most popular sports show of its time, Simmons was the type of guy to go, that's not that good. Not very good at all. So I posted the article. The print was kind of small, tough to read, so I thought I'd share some of it with you. And you can determine if Steve Simmons is the same guy now as he was then. All right? So I'm going to start with, and on the very first kind of page, he says he's talking about this particular story that he's writing and how he watched a lot of television, sports, and blah, blah, blah. And there's a common thread stringing sportscasts to sportscast in Toronto. Quote, there is an appalling lack of quality reporting on sports being done by Toronto's 4 television stations. That's right, 4. He didn't include TSN, which is national, or CHCH, which was Hamilton, so that's not Toronto.
Okay.
So it was CFTO, Channel 9, City TV, Channel 57, Global, Channel 6 or 22 or whatever it was, and CBLT, Channel 5. There you go. Not Kitchener, not Barrie, not stuff like that.
Right.
And so right off the bat, it's sort of like, there's a lack of quality reporting. So right off the bat. So he takes shots at Ann Romer. He says the weak link on City TV is reporter and weekend anchor Ann Romer. Romer is Toronto's only woman sportscaster, and she appears to be little more than a token female. Watching her stumble and fumble through the news is embarrassing to her, embarrassing to the viewer, and should be an embarrassment to City TV. And then he goes on to talk about CFTO and how they're a bunch of Ken and Barbie dolls.
Wow.
Right? They look alike. They sound alike. They say nothing. They're happy talk clones. The Barbies read the news. The Kens read the sports. CFTO, which is #1 in supper time news. Pat Marsden was moved out. Marsden didn't fit the image, but Lance Brown does. He walks. He talks. He smiles on cue. So this is Simmons writing about the television personalities that he's following.
Right.
There's some nasty stuff there. And you're going, who the fuck is this guy? But then to take shots at the #1 show, Sportsline, that everybody loved.
Oh, I know. It inspired so many people. Man. Like, how influential was Sportsline? Like, you ask a Tim and a Sid, or if you ask a Jay and a Dan, you ask all these like duos. It's all because of you guys.
So Simmons had come from Calgary, where the story goes, nobody would talk to him in Calgary. Like, none of the Flames players would talk to him. None of the Stampeders players would talk to him because he was always looking to stir up shit.
Right. Right. Yeah, he hasn't changed.
No. And so here's what he writes here. The Sportsline program has everything that should make it a terrific show, but it isn't. Some love it, some hate it. Those who don't like it are put off by the inane banter between Taddy and co-host Hebsy. Why are these men always smiling? What is so damn funny? And why doesn't someone let me in on the joke? This is what he's writing.
Humorless.
He can't figure out why we're laughing. And Jim's like, well, because it's sports, it's not World War III. Anyway, I'm paraphrasing here. But he goes on to say, what Global does better than any other station is report. Veteran Bill Bird has been at it longer than anyone in Toronto. But perhaps the best sports reporter in Toronto is Mitch Azaria, who has a keen journalistic ear and the chutzpah to ask the right question at the right time. The combination of Bird and Azaria puts Global ahead of its competition. Now, nothing against my good friends Bill Bird and Mitch Azaria. Fine fellows.
Sure.
But I don't think they were the reason that Sportsline was #1. I think Jim and I had a little more to do with it
of course.
than Mitch and Bill.
What a dumb comment.
No offense.
Right.
Mitch might have had a minute and a half, and Bill, as reporters, a minute and a half to 2 minutes every night to do a story on the Leafs or the Jays or whatever they're covering. And in a lot of cases, some really great stories that they help break.
Steve
Simmons to write that was the difference.
Yeah.
Was as a backhanded compliment as you could give.
Right. anything but to give you credit. I will just say Simmons, who, I actually quite like him personally. We get along very well. He's been over a few times, but he does lack a certain sense of humor. Like even with the hot dogs and Kessel thing, like it really irks him if he hears on Toronto Mike if I make a hot dog joke. Like it still bugs him. He's got a kind of, I think he just needs a little more funny in his funny bone, if you will.
He's jealous.
Sure. And he doesn't get, I don't think he gets the humor. I don't think he gets the humor. Business. Like I truly think his sense of humor is not quite, is not quite in tune. And he's just missing a lot of what made Sportsline great. Or he's jealous, which is probably more true.
So here's what so I'll just finish this up here. In half an hour, Sportsline should give you everything, but it does not. The concept is too highlight oriented. And often 2/3 of the program is film with annoying voiceovers. Home runs are not home runs on Sportsline. They are dingers and taters. And please, enough with the Three Stooges impressions. Joe Piscopo can pull off this kind of sportscast. Taddy and Hebsher can't.
Piscopo. And it figures he'd find Piscopo the funny guy on Saturday Night Live with Eddie Murphy.
Anyway, he takes shots at a lot of people in this. Bruce Dobig and Beddoes. And then at the very end, he writes, personally, I prefer a combination of personality, reporting, and news. If forced to choose, I'd watch CBLT for my supper time sports and Global Sportsline at night, grinding my teeth all the way.
That's epic, buddy. Are you going to frame that? I think Brian here on the chat here said you should frame that and stick it on the wall.
No need. But anyway, this is what, I had to go through. Now, again, when it came out in 1987, I'm sure I went, what is this guy doing? But my mom supplied me with enough of the press clippings that I had that this was a pattern that began with that article in 1987 and continues to this day.
Wow.
And she found, there's all kinds of examples. I won't get into it, but there's probably about 8 or 10 articles where he mentions me by name and there's a shot. Yeah. It was never, he's doing a great job or I love watching or something like that. It was a shot. Everything was a shot about my age, about I did stuff that he thought I was copying Chris Berman. Fucking other way around, buddy. Okay, sorry. He made some reference about me and Jim with Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann. We were on years before Patrick and Olbermann were teammates. Years. Probably, I would say a decade almost before Olbermann and Patrick were like, the big show on ESPN doing highlights and having fun. We were on well before that. So fuck right off.
Yeah, it probably irks him to see a sports personality who's beloved and quite liked. It probably irksome to him.
Now, you know what? I don't want to go the other way now and start making criticism. This is what he wrote about us years ago. Continues to write that way in that form. Piss people off. Sorry, man.
Oh, he'll say he did his job too, and maybe he's right on this because you know what?
Well, he's still employed, so he must be doing something right.
Yeah, and what I just saw a good comment here that today we call that clickbait, but back then it was just like any attention, just get your attention. Here we are decades later talking about it, so he did something right.
He made fun of my age in one of them, which was hysterical. He says they're trying to go younger. Oh, I know. When I went to Sportsnet, well, they're trying to go younger, so that's why they went with Hebsher, which was he's the same age as me,
right? That's like when they said when Strombo and Merrick were joining Hockey Night in Canada, they said this is the youth movement. These were two guys in their 40s who were coming over, but okay.
Anyway. All right. So enough with that. Just thought I'd share that with you because my mom was like, hey, Steve Simmons was really giving it to you here. It's like she's like showing me this article, big two full page article, right? Color pictures and all that. She go, wow, he really had it in for you.
Shout out to Mrs. Hebsher.
Thanks, Mom. The Maple Leafs are going to lose Zach Hyman. They're going to lose him. Because they won't be able to offer him $5 million plus per season, and lots of other teams will. The line forms to the right for Zach Hyman. Might get 8 years. Can you imagine?
Wow.
They won't be with the Leafs. The Leafs have given his agent Todd Reynolds permission to talk with other teams so that they can at least trade his rights and get something for him. Make no mistake, Zach Hyman cannot be replaced on this team. He can't. There's nobody that can fill that role. A banger, a guy stands in front of the net, takes all kinds of punishment, and developed, as far as I was concerned, another gear that I didn't know he had up until last year. That he's faster than he was before. He seems to shoot the puck better than he did before. Is it possible that he could be developing into a 4-5 tool player at the age of 29? Sure. Late bloomer. Went to university, Michigan. He's put in his time.
Chris Simon did
say,
that
oh,
too.
Yeah, he's playing with superior players that make him better. Okay. I'll give you that. But still,
right.
You lose that guy, you're taking a step backward because Wayne Simmons isn't taking his place. And give me another rugged forward that the Leafs have. Go ahead, I'll wait. Not going to happen. So even though I thought maybe a hometown discount, maybe the Leafs can find a way, juggle a few salaries, get rid of this guy, provide some cap space, it's not going to happen. And why should Zach Hyman give the Leafs a hometown discount? I was thinking maybe, look, he's born and raised here. His family's from here. He's got a brand here. His brothers and his family are all here.
Sure.
Maybe he doesn't want to go somewhere else. Maybe he's willing to give the Leafs not a discount so much, but some kind of a break to stay in Toronto because he loves it here. And they know that he loves it here. So what can they offer him? What can they possibly do to keep this guy? They can't.
Can we coax Claude Lemieux out of retirement maybe? How old is he now?
Yeah, he's in his 50s. So the Leafs are going to be a soft team, next year.
Softer.
Because that Hyman kills penalties, plays on the number one line, always comes up out of the corner with the puck, or at least impedes the person with the puck on the other team from getting out cleanly, takes the body, takes the punishment in front of the net.
But takes a lot of, on that note though, he takes a lot of punishment and he is showing to be a bit injury prone here. I just wonder, playing the way he plays, I don't know how long you can go at that level. But
what are you talking about? Injury prone. He comes back from his injuries pretty well to me.
I know, but he
played with a bad knee. Look at Shea Weber. Shea Weber played, and they say he may not ever play another game. Might not play another game. Wow. Lingering foot, ankle, knee, and thumb injuries. Okay? It's reported they're going to expose him. The Habs are going to expose him in the expansion draft to Seattle. And he might never play again. He might miss all of next season and might never play again. Wow. The man's 35 years old, and he looks like 135. So, he's been injured too. Everybody gets hurt. George Springer. You got to take your chances sometimes. In other words, would you rather have, and I don't want to say injury prone, you're going to risk injury if you play that way for sure. But career-threatening injuries? I mean, what's it worth to you to win a Stanley Cup? Put some guy out there for 3-4 years, sign him to an 8-year deal, I don't know, and hope and take a pass on the last 3 years. Right. Take a loss on the last 3. Hope you get 5 great years out of him. Win a couple of cups.
Like Michael Stipe said, everybody hurts.
And everybody hurts. Good REM.
Sometimes. Great video.
So, yeah, hockey, I mean, you got all kinds of stuff going. Free agency is the end of the month, and then you've got the draft, and you've got the expansion draft, all that stuff going. We'll see how it plays out for the Leafs, but I don't know. I don't like it. I don't know what's going to happen with goaltending. You're going to lose Hyman. Who are you going to get? You only got so much room in the cap space. You're paying all this money to those, those guys. I don't have to tell you.
Hey, KM makes a good point on the Shea Weber story you got there. Could that be a ruse so that the Seattle Kraken don't take him in the expansion draft?
Nah, look, I don't know.
I just wonder.
Another thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that he's got a massive contract. Yeah. Massive contract.
Sure.
And whoever takes him in the expansion draft, for sure, Montreal and Nashville still have to pay majority of the salary, because you're not going to take this guy. What does he make? $8 million a year or something like that? Seattle's not going to take a guy at $8 million a year. No chance. Not unless they know that salary is going to be paid for the most part by the Habs or by Nashville. Okay, so that's it for hockey here. NBA Finals, now best of 3, as Milwaukee held serve and tied their series with Phoenix at 2 games apiece. Wild fourth game in Milwaukee. Game 5 tomorrow in Phoenix. The Suns need veteran Chris Paul to pick up the pace. He was awful in the loss to Milwaukee the other night. And because he's the sentimental choice to win his first NBA title, he needs to play like a future Hall of Famer. Right? He needs to play like CP3 is capable of playing, or Phoenix is not going to win the NBA championship. And mind you, this Giannis is pretty good too.
Yeah.
Heck of a player. Did you see that block he made on the alley-oop the other night? Yeah. Fantastic. It's been great.
It's a much better series than the Space Jam reboot from the reviews I've seen.
Yeah, for sure that. So we'll keep an eye on that game, game 5 tomorrow in Phoenix. And by the way, there's all this going on in the NBA with Maria Taylor, who I've been telling you about for the last couple of weeks. Her contract ends next week. NBC already wants her to be an Olympics host. And there's a possibility that after game 6, which I think would be next week, it's possible that she could just fly the coop once her contract ends and immediately go over to NBC to cover the Olympics, which starts like the next day.
Right.
Or that day.
23rd.
And she was the one who people say planted that story by revealing the audio of Rachel Nichols saying those terrible things about diversity and how Maria Taylor only got her job because she's Black. And, the strong story is that Maria Taylor was the one who released these tapes and is now benefiting from it, flying the coop at ESPN, going to NBC. She's going to probably end up doing Thursday Night Football and all kinds of other big gigs, as well as the Olympics. And ESPN looks like a bunch of idiots, even more so since Stephen A. Smith, that racist commentator, went off about, now look, I had said things about, I'd like to see Vladdy Jr. learn English. That's on a local kind of level where he speaks English, but you understand that maybe he's not comfortable speaking full English, but you'd kind of like it maybe if you could have some type of dialogue where you're speaking some Spanish, he's speaking some English. It doesn't all need the interpreter. But I never would go off to say that, like Stephen A. Smith did, that Shohei Ohtani cannot be the face of baseball if he doesn't speak English. I mean, he basically took out every single Asian American with that one. I mean, that was ridiculous. Look, to say it would be nice if we had some broadcasters that spoke Japanese or he knew a little bit of English and you could have some type of dialogue. But for him to come right on and says, you can't be the face of baseball if you talk through an interpreter. You can't be that face of baseball in America. America has to have the face of baseball has got to be Bryce Harper or Mike Trout or whatever names he mentioned. And then he goes, and as a Black person, I know what it's like, to be, to have racist comments. Well, as a Black person, you should know better than anyone else that you don't say that shit about any other minority group.
Dumb comments.
It makes $12 million a year. And ESPN wonders why they're having issues with Black commentators, white commentators, insensitive comments. Racially charged comments, sexist comments. It's fucking unbelievable over there. What a shit show. And I'm wondering if some of that has found its way into the Canadian broadcast landscape as well. I think it has. I just don't think it's as overt. But I think you've got a lot of that as well. Is there equal representation? I've been saying that about the fan radio for quite some time. Bunch of old white guys. You take a look at the commentators that are doing baseball or the Olympics or hockey. Is it an equal representation? Are there tokens there that have been put in that spot to show that they're diverse? It's a whole problem, I think, in not just in broadcasting, but everywhere. But it's more evident in broadcasting because we see these broadcasters, we hear them, we can tell what their backgrounds are. And so this all comes into play now. And so a Black man on ESPN in the United States basically says that we as Americans don't want a Japanese, not a Japanese American, a Japanese to be the face of our sport is ridiculous. So incendiary. He went and apologized the next day, but his apology was like, if I offended you, one of those kind of apologies, which is not an apology.
Is it Epi Guerrero? He was the scout in the Dominican Republic who helped get
Guerrero was the scout.
Yeah.
The number one guy.
Tony Fernandez, Damaso Garcia.
Yep. All those guys.
George Bell. Okay. So we got all these Dominicans. So great point raised again by KM on your YouTube channel. But why is there no one at Sportsnet who speaks Spanish? Like the Dominican roots on this Blue Jay franchise goes back to, I don't know, late 70s, whatever. Early 80s. Mm-hmm. Where is the Spanish-speaking journalist covering the Jays for Sportsnet?
Good question. Don't have an answer for you. But I would agree that if you have that many Spanish-speaking players, it would be a benefit, almost a must for Sportsnet to have someone that can talk to these players, managers, whatever, And not just these players, but the visiting players. When the time comes that you can interview visiting players, why wouldn't you have someone that could speak that? And I had said, maybe if Hazel May learned Spanish. Now, I had sort of said it, not for fun, but to say, I wonder if Hazel May has considered taking Spanish lessons, considering she's doing so many interviews with Spanish-speaking people. People say, oh, you're on a line, don't suggest that, blah, 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 blah. I wasn't saying necessarily, hey, Vladdy should, start taking English 101 so that he can speak on camera in English. Let's come to a halfway point. I've heard many people have conversations in two languages. You go to Montreal. Sure. I got friends in Montreal that are trilingual, English, French, Italian. They can shift from one to the other. You wouldn't know the difference without using a clutch.
Right.
Is that not possible in this day and age? Of course it is. Is it not possible for a reporter to say something in Spanish to a player, have the player respond in Spanish, and then quickly, seamlessly say to the audience, Vladdy just said, da, 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 da.
It makes that, like Tom Tebbett, for example, has been covering tennis for decades, and he can go from French to English.
Oh, his French is perfect. Yeah, he's bilingual.
Right. Hey, because before we leave Sportsnet real quick, because Gene Velitis was interested in your take on this, and I am as well. What do you have to say about Joey Vendetta lost his weekend show on the Fan 590? And although they don't say it, right? They never tell you exactly why, but it looks like it's because of a tone-deaf tweet he did on Canada Day, which basically said, if you don't love it, get the hell out, because there's a lineup of people who will take your spot. What do you think about the Joey Vendetta situation?
Well, first of all, Joey's not a journalist per se. Joey's a friend of mine. I worked with Joey for many years at Q107, or he was there for many years, and he's a good guy. But basically, he works for Live Nation, and he has great contacts. He can pick up the phone and get whoever on the telephone, athletes, entertainers. And so his show, and I don't know if they said, hey, Joey, we think you're great. Would you like to have a Saturday afternoon show? I don't know. I mean, if he was that great, they would put him on regular basis.
Yeah, a revenue-generating time slot.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think it was, and I don't know how much they're paying him, and I don't know. For all I know, he's doing it gratis so that he can pump up his Live Nation image. Don't know.
Who knows?
But I think, as anyone knows nowadays, if you put something on social media and you're attached to a media outlet, even though these thoughts are your own, opinions are my own and do not represent the station I work for, of course they do. Station can come at you and say, Joey, you're on the air here. You're saying that. We're trying our best to be, diverse. We're working really hard. And you just fucked it all up with one tweet. Don't say that. And so, like many people who have said things and tweeted things that they regretted later, sometimes it's too late.
Or if you're Damian Goddard, sometimes you don't regret it later.
Well, Damian Goddard, there's another example. I mean, there's many people, I guess, now that if you were to go back and let's make a list of people that said stuff or tweeted stuff that they shouldn't have and ended up paying the ultimate price, lost their gig and lost their reputation too.
Right.
Okay. Golf now, the Open Championship, the British Open to us, but it's the Open Championship, is going on right now. Corey Connors fired a pair of 68s. He's in the clubhouse at 4 under par after 36 holes. He was playing with Colin Morikawa, who went crazy today at Royal St. George's with a 6 under par 64, giving him the lead at the time at 9 under par. Don't know what's going on now. I'm not going to update it as we go on. I can just tell you this. Things can change in a heartbeat. Louis Oosthuizen and Jordan Spieth were among the first-round leaders. They're just getting underway as we speak. Mackenzie Hughes of Dundas, Ontario, and they're going to change the name of that town. I'm telling you right now. It's going to be called Fundas. You're going to just take out the D and put in an F. You're going to do the same thing in Toronto. Fundas West Station, Yonge and Fundas Square. Ridiculous. I'm getting off topic. Anyway, Mackenzie Hughes of Dundas had a 466 in the first round. He's just getting underway in his second round. Bryson DeChambeau once again made himself the center of attention when he slagged his equipment maker Cobra, saying that his driver sucks. A Cobra rep said that Bryson is never happy, always complaining, and is basically a pain in the ass. Bryson apologized later, but the damage was done. What a dick. As for me, I was at Crosswinds the other day, and it was magic. I was hitting my driver beautifully, unlike Bryson DeChambeau. I did not complain to Titleist, although on number 11, I lost my grip and dumped one into the water. I blame it on my glove. I blame it on FootJoy. I blame it on the humidity, the grip, the Titleist driver I'm playing. I blame all of them, not me.
Right.
Still had a great time at Crosswinds. I hope to see you out there. I'm going to play Sunday. Go to crosswindsgolf.com. Book your tee time online. It's fabulous. It's in great condition. You will love it. It's public golf at its finest. And way easier than Royal St. George's, which, by the way, I think you have to have a 14 handicap or less to play. They will not allow you to play unless you're a 14 handicap or better. Sorry, you're not very good. The Olympic Games begin a week from today in Tokyo, and there are concerns about pollution levels in Tokyo Bay, where the triathlon's swimming portion will take place. Says one official, and I quote, "It smells like a toilet." Okay. It's going to be weird for the athletes and just as strange for the TV viewers and TV production people at the CBC. With the exception of athletics and aquatics, all commentators and most of the producers will be in Toronto, working from the studios there. The studio shows will originate from Toronto as well, which means Canadian athletes who just won medals can't just drop by and sit down on the couch next to Scott Russell for a chat. They can't, because Scott Russell and the gang are going to be back in Toronto, all of them. So we're so used to Zoom calls and interviews, I guess the athletes will just plug in and talk long distance. And Mike, we used to ask whether or not the commentators are on site in the early days of the pandemic. Are they on site? Are they not? But since we're so used to it now, it just doesn't matter. They've all become so good at calling games off a monitor from their home or from a studio that we really can't tell at all if they're on site. There are some issues. As you know, it's like, that person's not on site, so they can't see the whole ballpark, let's say, or what's going on down in the on-deck circle. But for the most part, they become quite proficient, and the technology is there to do the events from a long distance away.
Yeah, and these are extraordinary circumstances, Hebsy. Like, I feel like this might be an example where only send the bare minimum of Canadians to these Olympics, and that would mean the athletes who are actually participating.
Yeah, but you've got to have some commentators there. Here, for example, athletics is going to be Mark Lee will be calling all the athletics. So that's, all the track and field events. Michael Smith and Dave Moorcroft will be with him, I believe, in Tokyo. So that crew will be there. Rob Sneck and Byron McDonald are going to call swimming on site. And I think Mitch Peacock and Blythe Hartley are going to be there on site as well, calling diving. But everyone else is going to be in Toronto. All right. Gymnastics, Brenda Irving, Toronto. Triathlon, Signa Butler. In Toronto. Basketball, men's and women's, Dan Schulman. Golf highlights, Mark Zecchino in Toronto. Equestrian show jumping and tennis will be done by Bruce Rainey in Toronto. Beach volleyball, Claire Hanna in Toronto. Volleyball by Doug Dirks in Toronto. Rowing, Steve Armitage.
Oh, wow.
And canoe kayak sprint, Steve Armitage. I think from Toronto. Yeah. Matt Cullen calls canoe kayak slalom from Toronto. Nigel Reed is going to call soccer, men's and women's, from Toronto, as well as rugby sevens. Cycling will be called by Mark Connolly in Toronto. Marathons by Scott Russell in Toronto. Race walks by Matt Cullen in Toronto. Victor Finlay is going to call field hockey, selected men's matches in Toronto. No women's field hockey. Sport climbing, Brenda Irving in Toronto. Lance Wynn will call softball, Canada's games and the finals. Karate, Douglas Gellivan in Toronto. Wrestling and judo, Karen Larson will be calling in Toronto.
Whew. It's going to be a strange one, but what do you think definitively? Like, are you glad that they're having the 2020 Olympics, or do you wish they just skip it and go straight to 2024?
As long as they can pull it off. Like I said before, I mean, it's going to be odd. They're going to have to add audio sweetening in the stadiums for the athletes to give them the impression that there are crowds there. And naturally, the television broadcasts are going to have to sweeten the audio. The audio director is going to be the most important part of the production crew to make it seem as if, mix the sound in so that it doesn't sound like you're performing in front of an empty stadium, which, as you know, we've seen with soccer, with other sports. And, eventually they did a pretty good job of it. There are times you're going, wait a minute, they're playing in front of nobody, but it sounds okay.
They did fine.
We're used to that.
Until I watched the 2020 Euros, and I realized it's like a light was turned on, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's how it's supposed to sound. It was like, holy shit. But hey, just in the dying moments here, Gene Velitis made a joke. He wonders if Elliot Friedman's going to call swimming, which is very funny. And Chris is just curious if you have any thoughts on the Blue Jays draft picks.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, drafting a player that Baseball America or your scouts have rated, whatever number it is, it's a crapshoot. You can go over the years of the players the Blue Jays and other teams drafted that never panned out. And also players that were undrafted or drafted in later rounds that turned out to be late bloomers. And not just in baseball, but in many sports. The difference with baseball is when you're drafting high school players, it's a huge risk. When you're drafting college players, it's not as big a risk. Alek Manoah was a smart draft choice. Had they drafted him out of high school, I don't know. I don't know if he would have signed, and I don't know how much money he could have made as a high school player. And there, if you look, a lot of players were drafted out of high school and did not sign, opting instead to go to college.
Right.
And then were redrafted out of college as high draft picks. And so I really can't comment on the guys that they've taken. The same way it's hard for me to comment on a player that the Raptors might draft. It's easier, though, in that case, because a guy like Suggs, you saw him play at Gonzaga. You saw these guys play.
Right.
And so, and you know that top-level college athletes are a shorter step to the NBA than draft picks in baseball, who have to go through several levels of minor league baseball. And in some cases, a couple of levels. Like Vladdy did not play a lot of minor league baseball, right?
Right.
And Alek Manoah pitched 35 innings of minor league baseball. So you're rushing guys. You're getting guys that are more major league ready now, but I don't know about these Blue Jay draft picks.
Well, one last comment here, question actually. What's your take on the Ottawa Senators hiring Pierre Maguire?
If he's the right man for the job, good for them. If he's seen enough hockey and they feel that he's going to be a benefit to the organization and he was the best person for the job, good on him. The fact that he doesn't like analytics, you've got a lot of people going, boy, that's a dinosaur pick right there. But he's not the first broadcaster. And remember, he was a coach back in the 90s, Hartford Whalers, assistant coach on Pittsburgh when they won Stanley Cups. So to go from being a coach to being a commentator back to being a front office executive, it's not unheard of in sports. It's not. And that'll do it for episode number 241 of Hebsy on Sports.
I think it's 242.
Thanks as always to Toronto. What's that?
I think it's 242. Is my math
242?
I thought so.
Are you sure?
I'm only ever so sure because there's a million things.
You put down Hebsy on Sports 242 right there.
Am I wrong? I'll have to go back into the records.
I'm going to tell you right now. If you're wrong, I'm going to tell you right now.
Okay, this is exciting, everyone. Am I wrong? Because Hebsy's got in his notes 241.
Yeah,
really?
Because Hebsy on Sports 240 was last week.
Okay, I'm going to have to do a little homework after this.
Let me just see here last week. Champa Bay, right? The Champa Bay Lightning.
Is that last week?
It was episode 240. So
I feel great shame. I'll have to make some edits here.
Yeah. Well, maybe it was the tornado that hit yesterday that almost wiped out your show. You weren't paying attention to my show.
That's right. Wow. I'm slipping.
Which, by the way, is episode number 241. Thanks so much for joining us. Much appreciated. Toronto Mike, you can get him at Toronto Mike, his fabulous podcast. Hope he's got his numbers right.
Yeah, 886.
There you go. You're sure?
Yes, that one I'm sure of, yes.
Thanks as well to our sponsors, crosswindsgolf.com and manscaped.com. Use the promo code Hebsy at checkout for 20% off and free shipping. Your balls will thank you. Mike, you got that Lawnmower 4.0 there? Look at that. Beautiful. And you got the Crosswinds hat?
I'm wearing
fits your head perfectly, by the way.
Got to cover this big head of hair here. So
you got a big one there. Look, I still got the hair hat. Hey, thanks so much for allowing us into your headspace. Back with another exciting episode next week. Until then, so long for now. This podcast has been produced by TMDS and accelerated by Roam Phone. Roam Phone brings you the most reliable virtual phone service to run your business and protect your home number from unwanted calls. Visit roamphone.ca to get started.
I never get the number wrong. I can't believe
got it wrong today.
Is that because I went to see what the file was I used last week and I called that one 241, so I just added one to that.
I hope you didn't call that one 241.
Huh. Well, I mean, the podcast feed was fine because I always listen to your episode after I post it via the Apple Podcast. But I'll have to do a little dig in there. But brother, that was good stuff, and that was like a perfect hour. That's the way it was designed. Good. It was beautiful. Okay, awesome. I know I won't see it tonight, but I'll see you at TMLX 8 on August 27th.
I'm sorry I didn't mention that too. Yeah, enjoy. Okay. Have a good time. Hope the weather holds for you guys.
I think it's going to be good. All right, but you're good, man. Peace and love to you.
All right, man. Thank you. Cheers.
Bye-bye.